Good evening, everybody, and thank you for joining us tonight. My name is Miguel Perez. I'm the head of public programming for the Phillips collection, and it is my pleasure to welcome you to this very exciting program um, tonight. As part of our logo reimagined project, we are pleased to welcome Aniekan Udofia. Did I say that correctly?
Aniekan Udofia. Yeah.
Udofia, I'm sorry.
Yes.
That's my fault. Um,
It's okay.
as the Phillips Collection is celebrating 100 years this year in 2021, and we have a logo, we have a specific logo for our centennial year. But we are very fortunate to have reached out to this group of really wonderful artists, and we're going to hear from one of them tonight who are reimagined our logo, our Phillips Centennial logo, which is really great, really exciting. So I know we only have 45 minutes, so I really want to get into it, right?
Yeah.
So why don't we go ahead and start? And oh, I should say really quickly, we're gonna go through this entire series. If anyone has any questions throughout the program, please start sending them in now. This is going to be a rolling conversation, so any questions you have, send them through the chat, through the Q&A, and we will address them as soon as you send them. Perfect. So why don't we go ahead and start?
All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you so much for coming through. And like Miguel said, my name is Aniekan Udofia, and I'm a painter and illustrator here in Washington, D.C. And let's just go right to it. And I'm going to share my screen here and share some work with you guys. Let's see.
It's just your, we don't see your screen.
Okay, give me a second.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go to these photos here. All right. All right. So we're gonna start here. Can you see this?
Yes, yes, we can.
All right. So like I said, I'm a painter and illustrator. So my first love has always been illustration. So I grew up in Nigeria. So when I was there during the 90s, the explosion of hip hop, I aspired to be some sort like be involved in hip hop somehow with the arts. So my main thing was wanting to do like either editorials or album covers, which I ended up doing later on when in my career. Both I did an editorial for different magazines, and I also did album cover work, which I'm going to share with you guys right now. This right here is a local artist here in DC, Asheru, and he had an album called Sleepless in Seattle and Soweto. This guy is also, if you've seen the Boondocks, he's the guy. The theme song was made by him too.
Okay. Yeah.
And then there's another. I'm just gonna slide through these. This was another album cover that I did. This was another local artist, Ethan Spalding, that I did this album cover. Apollo Brown. He's a producer and DJ. And this was another one of those album covers. This was a mixtape by DJ Hav. And I was able to do a Rare Essence album cover twice. So this was the second one. They had a single featuring Snoop Dogg called Hit the Floor. And I was very proud. This was the first one. It was called Turn It Up. And yeah, this more concepts. Or this was another group of artists, cool DJ Uncle Q and Caliber. They had a group called Critically Acclaimed,
Okay.
and this was their first single called Road Trip. It was really cool, a really dope album. This one was very recent. It's a group called Dr. Black Love, and it's another local band here in DC. And this I just really love the theme and like just the energy and everything,
It's
you
really
know.
interesting to see like the transition between your earlier work and your newer work, and how more like realistic the figures get in your drawing.
Yeah, and that's another one of the that's another thing too that I love so much. I love that expression of like that figures can create, like the lady singing, like all of their expressions, you
Yeah.
can almost capture their personal vibe in the thing, even all the way down to the people dancing at the bottom. So this one, I did this first a few years back, and um the guys were it was an album cover, so the guys were very nice enough to allow me to redeem myself by by redoing this album now that I've stepped up a lot of my skill set, because I also recently started playing with digital media as well. So the album went from this to that digitally.
That's
And the
that's huge. That's a huge difference.
Yeah, and the things you can do with digital,
Yeah.
and it's just in the composition, because I learned more about composition. Because if you can see, like, it's the same format, but I kind of arrange things differently in a way where it actually tells the story in a much more cohesive way that I would have preferred. So yeah, um, and I my dream job is to do Wu Tang's album cover. So I created this piece. I think the RZA actor actually saw it and shared it, even though
Oh wow.
you know, yeah. So yeah, it's just that's this one of my dream things to do eventually, like to create something Wu Tang for Wu Tang, and again that a lot of illustration, and I love storytelling and expressions. And Old Dirty Bastard from the Wu Tang was always like, I just like that name and like his character. So I created this based on that. And there you have Biggie, um, and of course Tupac. You know, and these are, the pencil theme is based on a couple of series I have called Return of the Shaolin Pencil and another one called Reloaded.
So we got a question, and actually something that I've been wondering too, and that
Mhm.
is like, tell us about the pencil in your, like, tell us about the pencil. You have this continuous representation of like a pencil in all of your work.
Yes. So at some point, I was reading Joseph. There's a philosopher called Joseph Campbell, and he has a book called The Hero with a Thousand Faces. And in this book, he explains basically the algorithm of the hero's journey, which is separation, initiation, and return. So when I discovered this stuff, I went back and started uh, introspecting and finding out that the one thing I've always been with is because in the hero's journey, there's always a motive. Like Luke Skywalker has the lightsaber, Batman has that bat, or bats, Superman has the S and things like that. Even in religion, some people who are Christians, they wear crosses, that's a motive. And so for me, this pencil was kind of like a way of, when I returned, basically had you know, a new idea. So returning back into art and being more open, and understanding that you can write your own history or rewrite it. So that's why the pencil is always there, and a lot of people have uh, picked picked up on it also, but in different ways, which is also a good reason. So these were more like I love nature. I love, like, you'll see a lot of that later on. So these were like concept pieces, because I like all genres of art, from illustration, the paintings, concept art, fantasy art. So you'll see a lot of those influences. This is another, I have a series called The Village B-Boy, and it's about me growing up again in Nigeria around hip hop, So recreating those scenes and what I saw, because it was like a perfect blend of culture, American hip hop culture with Nigerian, you know, Afrobeat or high life culture. So you can see like these are things that I would see. The rope chain will literally be made out of actual twine or rope, not real gold chain, and they would just spray it gold and walk around with it. But they would be so proud, just like how the kid is. And everybody carried a radio for some reason. I don't know why, but people just like see how casual this kid is with his little brother on his back, and he's just very casual, but he has that huge radio on his head.
Yeah.
And people used to be like that in the village. They'll just be blasting Big Daddy Kane, and they have no clue who they're playing. But we'll notice that, and we'll be like, "Oh, is that Big Daddy Kane?" And they're like, "Big Daddy who?" You know, but they're blasting it
Yeah.
through their system. So we would find out where they got the mixtape from. And so it would turn out that maybe they worked, one of their relatives or them themselves worked in one of the bigger cities like Lagos. So what we would do is we would write them a list and say, when you go back, tell them to record these particular artists on the tape. And so that's what this series is about. It's about remembering those guys who were actual ambassadors of hip hop to, the town we were in.
Yeah.
And this is again a part of that Reloaded series where it's about self-discovery. It's about resurrection, restarting. And this piece this would end up later on. I'll show you guys later on. This piece ends up becoming a mural, actually called Namaste.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is another one, Return of the Shaolin Pencil. I just love that name, how it sounds so dramatic and cool. It's like Return of the Jedi. So yeah, and then again, my love for comics, comic art, comic books, and which is another one of my goals to do like a comic book cover or something like that.
Yeah, I remember you and I talking about that the other day.
Yeah, I love those. I love cover art so much, and the storytelling. You know, like Luke Cage in Harlem, and it's just boom. You see it, and it's just that. And
Yeah.
of course, Mike Mignola's Hellboy, one of my favorites. Yeah, and these are more like conceptual stuff. Again, storytelling
Yeah.
is which is something when I start showing the murals, you'll see these elements repeat themselves. So sometimes the image speaks for itself, and that's what I love about illustration. Sometimes the composition and the imagery. So this is another one about that was based on Joseph Campbell's theory about the hero's journey. So at some point, you're going to have to face what is known as your dragon. And this dragon is actually your ego or your own hesitance or whatever has been holding you back. So in this image, he comes face to face with his own ego, and he has to yank that chain. He has to leave with that chain that the ego is wearing on its neck, which has pencils.
Yeah.
So, which is something that's very common. Again, going back to, drawing, again, line work, drawing, just these quick drawings, John Wick, the composition. I love poster work and book covers and stuff like that. So you can already see this looking like a book cover or something like that. And that's why I created this, because I was watching the movie and I was like, wow, I like the dramatic scenes and like how his swag, like his flow and things. And of course, Grace Jones, and that just tying it in again into the series, whether it's Reloaded or Return of Shaolin Pencil. This one is more like Reloaded, where I'm kind of using a steampunk theme. And another one of my favorite characters, Afro Samurai, and I just wanted to play with that design because I like the flow. Again, there's something about how his headband extends and flows. Even in the series, you'll see like the headband has a complete different shape
Yeah.
and there's a certain kind of dynamism to him and his headband and even his hair. So I was like, okay, let me take a crack at that. And here's again, I have a series of cards. Um, my business cards look like this. So anytime you see me, ask for one. It's a
Yeah.
collector's item. They're all different. you know, so it's something to collect. So this is where again, like playing with illustration, flow, colors, themes, and things like that.
Yeah.
This is another me getting more and more into digital work and my love for fantasy work and concept art. So I reimagined Medusa in this one. And this one, like some people lost on a abandoned planet only to find out, the boss is home. So yeah, Return of the Shaolin Pencil again. Playing with these digital media. And this is another Wu Tang based piece. So you can see her earrings are Wu Tang earrings, and the killer bees kind of flying out of the speaker of the system. So yeah, these all these like again storytelling. How do you hit someone like if this was a book and they put the title over, what would make you want to grab this book? Is it the fact that she's so confident just standing there with her radio,
Yeah.
and you have the way the ninjas round out and the city in the background and the bees and everything is there, but it's one cohesive image.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this
So
one,
we got a
yes.
question, and it's something that I think is we wanted to touch on later, but someone is asking if you are formally trained. So can you as we roll through these images, can you talk a
Mhm.
little bit about kind of how you learn, like how you came about illustration and drawing?
Yeah, I wasn't formally trained. My parents were extremely against it, even though they started it. So um, I kind of learned as I went. So from when I was a kid, I learned from other friends. If I saw other kids, till this day, I'm always excited about what other artists are doing and styles and things like that. So that's how I kind of picked up. Right now, currently, I am taking classes from some of the top illustrators and concept artists in the game right now because that's the direction I'm headed to. But I can apply the same thing into doing mural work, and like it kind of enhances the mural work.
Yeah. Where are you taking your classes?
So I'm taking a few online classes. One of them is called Smart School, SMART School, and then there's another one called Visual Art Passage.
Okay.
And so yeah, and then there's Schoolism and a bunch of other schools online. So again, that's storytelling with this one, and then now we go into again. I'm going to show a few things that once you learn, and this is again the path of that hero's journey. So you go through separation. This is the separation part where this image I did a while back, and after learning, I returned to the same image and recreated it in a different way, with a different medium, you know. So again, this was another one. I had a series called Can You Dig It? And this was called The Gambler. So the gambler always gambles away his money, unfortunately, to these dice games. So and it's based on the 70s. And I liked like at that time, a lot of my influences were Justin Bua and Frank Morrison. These are artists that are uh, Ernie Barnes. No, not yeah, I think that's his name. The guy who did the paintings on Good Times, the show, and he also did Marvin Gaye's album cover for I Want You. So I did this piece, uh, The Gambler, and I learned that yeah, like because I drew this out of my head. It was completely, the anatomy is off, and I didn't like the positioning, so I revisited it, and this time I posed myself as the characters
Yeah.
to get a real life feel of what they would look like, and then I recreated it this time with the new style. And as you can see, the story again. The story is about this guy here always gambling his money away, and that's why the two guys are like, "Oh, we got him this time. We got him." And so yeah, this is one of my favorites. So this was a piece that it was a concept that I presented for to be considered as a mural. This is Toni Morrison, the writer. She passed away, I think, 2 years ago. And there was a quote that she said, "If there's a book that is not written yet, then you must write it. There's a book you want to read that it hasn't been written yet, then you must write it."
Yeah.
So I just really liked that quote, and I created this piece. It was turned down, but I will eventually paint this mural here in DC because I think that's a very powerful message,
It is a
especially
really
in these
powerful.
times.
Yeah. Do
Yeah.
you see the work, the illustrations, the drawings that you do you see those as like your stories that haven't been written yet? The ones that you want to read?
Yeah, absolutely. That's the same. It's the same thing. That's actually a great question. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Because these stories are in my head, and when I discover these things, I like to share them. So
Yeah.
yeah, and I really want to paint this piece somewhere in DC, and this is the reference that I use, by the way. So yeah, now we go to some of the murals. Some of them, if you are here and you've seen this, this one is in Blagden Alley,
Yeah.
Erica Badu and Sun Ra.
And
That's the
so
late Dick Gregory.
we have a
In front.
question about your murals, and I just if you can point it out when we get to it. So someone is asking if you could tell us a project in DC that was the most challenging for you. So if there's a mural in the city that you've done that was the most challenging for you, one of our participants would like to know.
Yeah, there's a lot. One of them is this one actually. It's funny that question just came up. So this the late Dick Gregory, is pointing at himself at the Bench Chili Bowl mural. This was very challenging because I had 7 days to paint. I think it's 16 portraits
Oh wow.
on a wall, and that it was I think it was like more like 5 or 6 days. So I at the last couple of days I had to work 72 hours straight, no sleep. I was there. I think the last day it was a Tuesday going to a Wednesday, and I was out there from 7 a.m. till 11 the next day.
Oh wow. It's a
Yeah,
lot of coffee and Red Bulls.
I wish. So this was done in New Orleans,
Okay.
in Baton Rouge. Maya Angelou, and yeah.
Yeah.
So again, she had a really cool quote: "We may encounter many defeats, but we must not be defeated." So I like that, and she tied right into the whole pencil series. And now, as I'm looking at this, I'm like, "Oh, I want to redo that." This is another mural that I did for private. Um, that was for private property, yeah. And then there's another one that was commissioned. I think this place is on H Street.
Yeah, I think so.
It's on their patio, and this one is on Good Hope Road, and it's Frederick Douglass. It's actually a revisit. I had painted this before a few years back, and then I revisited this and gave it this look. And again, like with that's the thing that I love about constantly evolving and learning. The more skills you acquire, you go back and revisit certain pieces,
Yeah.
and you can see the difference. And so, yeah, and then I also took on this project for Connect DC. It's like a mobile tech lab, and this was fun because this is where I was still working traditional, and I was trying to figure out digital. And this is a piece I did for Lululemon. I think it's on 14th Street, and that's it hanging in the store.
Okay.
This one is in Foggy Bottom. Foggy Bottom had a lot of glass factories,
Yeah.
and that's like the smoke or the fog from those factories was what gave it the name. So this mural is kind of like that. You have a glass blower, or something, a glass worker, and using that steampunk kind of thing and
So as
creating the story.
yeah, as we're talking about your murals in DC, We
Mhm.
got this question in the Q&A that says, "How do you feel about painting over Bill Cosby at Ben's Chili Bowl?"
Oh, I don't feel anything. You know, it's Ben's Chili Bowl's business. You
Yeah,
know, you're commissioned to paint something, and I just feel grateful that they reconsidered me to come back and
yeah,
redo it or redeem myself. It's sort of like that album cover thing that I showed you before,
yeah,
where the guys were like, "Hey, now that you got some skills in digital, do you want to take a shot at it?" And so, but with this, it was with the Bill Cosby thing, it was just like, yeah, it was necessary.
yeah.
So yeah, this one is in Richmond. This one is Bliss nightclub over there in Northeast. This one is very popular. It's on
Yeah,
15th and U
that one's so
of
beautiful.
George Washington. This is one. I think this was back in 2009, if I can recall.
I think
This one.
anybody who's gone out drinking in Adams, Morgan knows that.
Yeah, this one is in Ivy City. It's for City Winery. This was very interesting because I presented a bunch of concepts, and the owner is really, really enthusiastic and passionate about grapes. I mean wine. So he wanted grapes on there with and this was fun because the way it came out is just how the focal point was the grapes. And it's funny because when you look at these on from the ground, they look small, but each grape has a span of at least 10 feet.
Wow. Yeah.
It's 10 feet wide, like each grape. So it was very difficult to kind of paint each grape and then fall back and look at what it looks like. This one is in Northeast, of course, with the Northeast in the glasses. This was done for Palette 22.
Okay.
See
Yeah,
the
that one's really cool.
one. Yeah, this one is a private commission. I think it's up here in Northeast. Of something, a theme about Mother Nature and animals, and animal conservation. And you would see this theme would then repeat because this is where I am now, like with
Yeah.
nature and things like that.
Well,
So
so
yeah, this was yes.
speaking about the kind of like the themes that run through your work, we did get a question
Mhm.
in the Q&A. It says, "It seems as though Afrofuturism is a recurring theme in your work. Do you think this is a movement slash philosophy that is pivotal to these current times?"
Um, I think it is. Yeah, just like any other theme that occurs in art, like there's always been like different genres. Like I mentioned before, you have concept art, you have comic art, you have fantasy art and things like that. So all these things coexist at once. They've always been there. If you see Black Lightning has been around forever, and that is Afrofuturism. Like
Yeah.
even Cyborg from Justice League,
Yeah.
that's Afrofuturism too, and so on. So yeah, absolutely, it is. It's always been there. It's just that thanks to things like the Black Panther movie that just came out, now people are more hip to it, you
Yeah.
know, in a sense. So this was done for church, and this is the piece I showed earlier
Oh yeah.
that then this was the digital version that I presented and ultimately became the mural. So this was another interesting one. This was done for Facebook
Yeah.
in Ashburn, Virginia.
Okay.
This one is on New Jersey Avenue. It's for a place called the Garden, and this was something I did for the National Hockey League for the Caps
That's so cool.
finals. This
Uh,
is another one of those very famous ones. This is on 7th and S Street, Marvin Gaye.
yeah.
This was done for Axe Throwing Place.
Okay.
Yeah. Um, yeah, and this is over there in Southeast, right close to where Frederick Douglass' house is. And so I've done Frederick Douglass mural twice in Southeast in close
So
proximity
this
to
is
each other.
this is actually, if we can go back to Frederick Douglass, there's a question in the
Mhm,
Q&A that I think relates to this. And somebody
mhm.
wants to know if most of your murals connect to the history of the communities that they're in, or do you just kind of go for kind of what your client is asking you? Like, is there like a
Combin Yeah, it's a combination of both. So sometimes the client might have a concept in mind, but my job is to kind of see where how to tie in the community that it's gonna be in, because that's, sometimes the client might not be that aware of that fact.
yeah,
So that's what I do a lot is I try to negotiate the community or the neighborhood into the piece
yeah,
as well. So this one is on the Lincoln Theater,
okay,
and this was something I did indoors for nonprofit organization. This is at Sud House. This is the old Bohemian Caverns. There was a mural similar. It had Miles Davis in it. So
okay,
I just did a remix
beautiful,
of the
yeah,
same mural. This was done for Youth Center here in DC. That's right around the corner from me here in Adams Morgan Hard Training Club, where I take
yeah,
boxing
okay.
lessons. Yeah, this
So
was
we're getting to the point where we have about 10 minutes left, and I know we want to talk about the logo that you did for the Phillips collection. And then we also
all
wanted to
right.
show people your like live drawings. So I was wondering if maybe we could
Mhm.
fast forward a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, so this is the latest, and yeah, so the process of line work, the color, reference, and then it becomes the final. This one is another recent one on New York Avenue.
Wow.
And this was done for South Block, where I took that image and put it right there. This was done for Starbucks in Southeast. Again, another Frederick Douglass. And there's some few pieces, art pieces, love Bob Marley and Fela. And here we go.
Here
So
we go.
that's my piece. This piece was really inspired by spring. I love spring. So it's just when I was commissioned by the Phillips and was called upon to do this, I immediately what I thought was spring because it was just perfect. So I thought about it and I looked at the image and immediately what came to mind was, like, wow, this could be some cool glasses. And so I just started like randomly sketching around the 100 Phillips, and this image it kept growing. So I threw in like the plants and the butterflies, and then eventually I wanted to give her some earrings, and I tried a few. They were just basic hoop earrings, and then I kind of threw the pencil in there to kind of customize it to my
Yeah.
style. And before I knew it, it was this whole image came about, and I really it was a really fun exercise. It was a fun commission to play with.
Yeah. I have to tell you, I got an email from one of my colleagues that said we're not cool enough to deserve this logo, which I don't think is true, but uh, it is. I think out of this project that we've done so far, probably my favorite, and it's so
Oh
unique
wow.
and so like you, right?
Mhm.
It's such a different take on I think even what we thought any of you were going to do around this.
Mhm.
It is so special and so unique and so you. It's so great.
Wow, thank you so much. Thank you. Now I want to do like let me see. So the process, right? And I'm gonna go over here to Procreate and kind of show you guys like a quick demo of like the ideation of
So
how I come
the
about doing this.
the software that you use drawing digitally is Procreate, correct?
Yes.
Okay, we did.
Yeah. So this is
I want to make sure.
yeah, this is Procreate, and so yeah, so there's a lot of from little things that I'm learning, picking up here and there. There's the basics of seeing things in three dimensions. So oops, that's too much. So you have like like one dimension is how everybody would see things, but the artist is trained to see things in three dimensions, which is X, Y, and a Z axis. So um, you can you're looking at a circle, and that circle becomes that, you know. So you have a three dimensionality to it.
Yeah.
So the same thing applies, like, understanding certain shapes like that, that, the rectangle and the cylinder. So like for example, a face, for instance, you can have, if you did that and that, what does it look like? Um, it could be the Mandalorian or the Predator,
Yeah.
So these shapes apply in everything, just even if you're drawing a regular face. So you have a head like that, and your circle is here, and then you might have triangle here, and build out from there and build the shape out from there. And sometimes where this is a daily exercise that I do, because my thing, I really love portraits. So I'll play around with these like shapes
Yeah.
to see how realistic, the believability, not photorealism, but more like believability in terms of the planes of the face, and trying to see how I can get it close to a face as possible. So as you can see, like even with putting in the shades right there, the the head starts to come to life.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean by believability. And that's what also I'm applying to a lot of the work that I was showing you guys earlier. So by the time, I break this down even more, you start seeing more of a face there. Um, and yeah, so this can happen, like, because sometimes, of course, we are obsessed with time lapse these days, and that's the beauty also of digital. So in a time lapse version, like I'm actually drawing this real time, but it's just one of those exercises that they do in the morning to kind of test my skill set. And again, believability, like just coming up with these shapes and shadows, and to see like how much I can define a face without too much detail, extensive detail to it. So just using big blocky shapes and cutting out the face is almost like sculpting in a way. And again, like as you're seeing it, you'll see it unfold slowly but surely, and then from there you craft, build whatever based on the lighting
Yeah.
that you desire.
It feels like you're just like slowly carving away at the paper, and just the layers that are underneath.
Yeah, so and there are certain things that human beings read instantly as a face. So for example, like these areas um, that I'm carving out right now, like the nose area here. So you see, like just doing that, it defines a nose already. And
Yeah.
the same thing with the lips, oh, too small. So yeah, so you have the lips there, and certain areas of the face that again are identifiable immediately by humans.
Yeah.
When they see that, they can tell, like, oh, that's a face of some sort.
That's a nose.
And
Those are lips. Like those are eyes.
yeah,
They're like really starting to
right.
come together. So we got this really interesting question. It's something that you and I were talking about the other day.
Mhm.
Somebody would like to know if you think digital will ever replace traditional art.
I don't think digital will ever replace traditional art. It's a medium. it's no different from acrylics,
Yeah.
oils, color pencils, whatever the medium it is you use is. It's just a tool.
Yeah.
So the way, like what I'm doing right now, it's not the brush that I'm using is not doing this. I'm doing this
Yeah.
based on the knowledge that I have of what I was showing before. Seeing things in 3D is why I'm able to do this. It's not because I'm using digital.
Yeah.
The difference, again, there are different genres in art and there are different tools. It's just like when some people, there's a misconception in the art world where, and I get this a lot when I'm working on a mural. People come up and they say, "How long will it take you to finish?" It's because we've been oversaturated with videos of time lapse. And
Yeah.
so some people actually, and unfortunately, some artists lie about how much time it takes to do something. So just to, because the general public reads it as, so let's say, for instance, if someone comes up and asks me, how long will it take for you to finish? And I give them a shorter period, to them, that means that I'm really good.
Yeah.
But if I give them a longer period, then I'm so-so, because on a certain video they watch, someone finished a whole 80-foot mural in 2 minutes. So that is, that's the issue that people, I think what people don't understand about these mediums, like whether it's digital or traditional. What I would advise, I would say you have to learn those mediums first, in order to, if you're an artist, like you have to learn those mediums first and understand how they work, because the mediums are not doing the work, you are.
Yeah.
So if I, like, being that I learned from a traditional background, it's easy for me to see how these can become applicable in digital, you
Now, where do
know.
you think that then falls in the realm of like accessibility, right? Like you're doing this on an iPad with
Hmm.
a piece of software, and that's like this tool that almost anybody can get these days, right?
Right.
So, and somebody who wants to experiment more but doesn't have the budget to buy a bunch of acrylic or oil paint, or doesn't have the
Hmm.
budget to buy paintbrushes and canvases
Hmm.
and watercolor
Hmm.
boards and all of that stuff. Do you
Hmm.
think that this is a tool in which we can start somebody can start learning off of and then build their experience and knowledge solely off of this?
Yeah, absolutely. You can take this and start. Yeah, you can start from here. And that's the beauty of it all. Like, I wish this stuff was around before, because when I was working in the illustration field, I drew everything traditional. So it was a little bit difficult when you had to edit stuff. So I had to edit it like in a like physically.
Yeah.
Whereas with this, if I want to edit stuff, I can just do that, and put it the back where it was before. Um, I can. There are a lot of things, and again, it's based on what skill set one has. So again, believability. Like, what is this? What is it? Does it look like a face? Is it, and you start from there to carve out your ideas, because you know um this is a fun exercise, to do daily. You can play around with even the person's gender, even. So
Yeah.
like now, he's a guy, and there's certain things, elements about a guy's face. Like, he has a much, like, this part of his face is much more, like, the eyes are closer to the nose, and as you can see, like, he becomes like a really, and the eyebrows are lower and thicker, you know in a way. And so you can see, just doing that, just, you can see a guy kind of breaking out of the whole shadow of that. And then at the same time, let's say I want to change the gender again. So what I do is let's see if we have time, like 1 second to
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
so I
Well,
get this.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Let's run it through. For those of you that can stick around, we're gonna see him transform this mural into, or this drawing into a woman.
Um, so yeah, high cheekbones here. Mm, bring the nose.
And then as you go through this drawing process, I'm gonna throw some questions at you that have come through in the
All
chat.
right, no doubt.
Somebody would like to know what type of paint you use for your outdoor murals.
I use house paint
Okay.
and spray paint.
Is there a
Um,
brand of spray paint that you use?
I use the Montana Black because that's basically made for outdoor things,
Yeah.
you know. Um, so yeah, I like to use Montana Black for that. Um,
And then
mm,
we have another question here that I think you and I talked about briefly a little bit
mhm.
ago, but or not during this, but while we were waiting for it to start the program. And this person is asking if you study the anatomy of the human body.
Yeah, actually, I actually do. I have some figures, and I studied Andrew Loomis' book, how to draw the body and how to draw the heads and stuff like that. And I always have a bunch of references, like I was showing earlier. Um, it's very good to use references. I know it's cool to presume that we would like to draw like Kim Jong Gi, out of our heads, but Kim Jong Gi is Kim Jong Gi. Most of us have to actually practice and learn and get to that point. So I always study at any chance I can. I have to, especially the human figure, being that I love drawing it or painting it so much. So yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's like
Mhm.
you said, you do this every day, right? Like every morning, you,
Mhm.
I'm assuming, have breakfast and then like start drawing and practicing and going
Oh,
through.
this is the breakfast.
Yeah. Just as you added the mouth there, like it that bigger a turn, so it very much like became a female for me, just like using the mouth and the nose.
Right. And it's like very simple things. So by the time I add the brows, you can already kind of see it turning into a woman in a way.
How much time do you spend daily just like drawing or creating? Obviously, like being a creative is your job, right? That's what you do for a living.
Mhm.
But how
Mhm.
much time do you spend drawing? How much time do you spend practicing this?
I spend a lot of time, and I'm along with the schools and stuff like that. Um, I try to avoid too much of YouTube because it could be overwhelming. So the
Yeah.
best way is to just find an illustrator or a painter that you like and learn from them directly. A lot of times, these people are highly accessible, and some of them have programs or courses that are available for people. And it's worth every penny.
Yeah. Have you had people that have reached out to you and be like, "Hey, can you teach me how to draw?"
Not yet. I've had people who've asked questions about certain things like drawing or doing murals. So, but not. I think that's what lies ahead for me. Might be the actual teaching gig, where because I want to. There's a lot of things to share with people,
Yeah.
you know, that I feel like would really help. So yeah, so I'm just gonna stop there. But again, the believability of the entire thing. Like I do, this is basically what I'll do things like that and play around with, you know, the excuse me, the looks. And add things and switch it back and forth from man to woman to child, and then put like things like this in the background to kind of, and then play with color also.
Yeah.
And that's the fun thing about these um, mediums, is that you can actually do that. So like, you can have it this color, that color, whatever color you feel works,
Yeah.
you know.
That's so
And
great.
the thing
Like,
is, like, once you switch it to these colors, you can then go back and then use the color scheme and work into it if you want,
yeah.
you know.
Which is really great. And I think goes back to this idea of how accessible and like easy like
Hmm.
a platform like Procreate might be to somebody who's getting into drawing, because when you
Hmm.
start off with like traditional mediums, like that's all you have, right? That's like it. Like
Right,
you make a painting, and if you want to change the color, you got to start a whole new painting.
right. And or you have to have that color pre-mixed,
Yeah.
and and there's nothing wrong with that, because again, it's a skill set, you know. So with something like this, you can go in and, again, it's you doing the work. It's not the brush. So you can do whatever you want to it. There are different ways, and it's how much you understand the medium and how it works that makes this work.
Yeah.
You know?
That's awesome. Uh,
Yeah.
so I think we have one last question. We have two
Hmm.
questions, I think, that or a question and a comment. So the
Hmm.
question is, and I guess this would relate more to pre-COVID times, if you would ever attend like live figure drawing sessions.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I've always been looking for those.
Yeah.
You know, I think oh man, I don't think I've attended. I've attended maybe three in 20 years. So I would love to
Yeah.
do that. I didn't even know they existed. If it's especially if it's local, or even like in the DMV area, I'm very open to that.
And then we have a comment slash question, and someone said this was really great. They want to say thank you, and I guess they're asking if we could have a part two, which is a future conversation for you and me, I guess, to see if you want to come back and I think do this again. I think there's some platforms that we can kind of figure that out for.
Oh man, that would be awesome. Yeah, thank you very much. Wow. Yeah, I definitely want to do this again. Yeah,
Yeah,
because
no,
these conversations have to be had, because
yeah,
there's a lot of things that people don't understand, especially in terms of the process. So I think, yeah, I'm definitely down.
my boss
Absolutely.
just texted me and said we're definitely having him back. So that's that's our answer right there.
Hey, hey, I'm ready anytime. Anytime. Yeah, this is, yeah, I love, again, this is it's like because you have to allow yourself to be playful, so like this medium is sort of like a toy, but you're also learning, at the same time. So it's fun.
Yeah, that's
I
great.
love it.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Well, it is. We are well over time by about 10 minutes, but
Oh
totally
man.
worth it. Totally worth this last
Yeah.
part to like see you drawing. I have been hyping this up to everyone at the Phillips collection since last Thursday. Like, you got to be there to see this. This is gonna be so much fun. So I appreciate one. Thank you to all of you for participating tonight and being here and watching as we kind of went through this process. Um, Thank you, Anikin,
Oh
uh,
yeah. Let me get
for
back.
being a part of this and creating this like logo for the Phillips collection and being a part of this whole
Yes.
program project. We greatly appreciate you. Um, yeah, thanks to all of you. We hope to see you at another Phillips Collection program. This recreating our logo project is going on until the end of the year. So every month we have a new artist. Next month, for the month of April, we have Miss Che Love, which I'm very excited about to see kind of what she comes up with. I actually have a meeting with her on Thursday about it. So Stay tuned. Keep on the lookout for that. And thank you all for attending. This was really wonderful.
Yeah.
Have a good night, everybody.
All right. Thank you. Peace.